Most of us grew up learning how to earn a paycheck. Very few of us were ever taught how to own things that generate money on their own. And that difference changes everything. If every dollar you make depends on getting up, going to work, and staying healthy enough to keep earning, then one unexpected setback can throw your entire financial life off course. But when you own real assets, you begin moving beyond living paycheck to paycheck. You start building wealth that continues to grow even when you're not actively working. That's the real goal, not just earning income, but owning assets that create income. For Black families, that shift is especially important. In 2022, the median Black household had about $40,900 in wealth, while the median white household had roughly $285,000. In other words, the typical Black family held only about 15% of the wealth of the typical white family. That isn't simply a matter of working harder, it's a matter of ownership. And when we talk about ownership, we're not talking about collecting expensive possessions. We're talking about owning assets that appreciate, generate income, hold long-term value, and continue working for your family long after a paycheck is spent. Hard work deserves respect, but hard work without ownership can leave people running in place for decades. Research from Brookings found that between 2019 and 2022, much of the increase in Black household wealth came from home equity and business ownership, while white households saw a much larger share of their wealth growth come from stock investments. That tells us something incredibly important. Black wealth grows when Black families own more. More homes, more businesses, more investments, not simply more jobs. Before we get into the 5 assets, there's something that needs to be said first. If you don't have an emergency fund yet, don't beat yourself up over it. Too many people try to jump into investing while life keeps throwing unexpected expenses at them every month. The car breaks down, rent goes up, a family emergency happens, medical bills show up, work hours get cut. Then they wonder why they can't stick with their financial plan. The problem isn't always a lack of discipline. Sometimes life keeps taking money before your future ever gets a chance to grow. The Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has pointed out that even a modest emergency fund can help families recover more quickly from financial setbacks and reduce the need to rely on debt whenever something goes wrong. That's why real wealth doesn't begin with chasing investments. It begins with financial stability. The first asset is cash reserves in a high-yield savings account. It may not be exciting. Nobody posts viral videos celebrating money sitting quietly in a savings account. But cash reserves are one of the most valuable assets you can own because they protect every other asset you're trying to build. Without cash set aside, every emergency becomes a financial setback that forces you to sell investments, rack up credit card debt, or abandon your long-term goals. Asset number 2 is broad index funds held inside a Roth IRA or another retirement account. If there were one investment that gives everyday people the best chance to build wealth steadily over time, broad index funds would be near the top of the list. Not chasing meme stocks, not trying to predict the next big winner, not assuming you can consistently outsmart the market. A broad index fund allows you to own small pieces of hundreds or even thousands of companies with a single investment. Instead of putting everything on one business, you're spreading your risk across much of the market. It's simple, diversified, and especially helpful for beginners. Broad market ETFs and index funds provide exposure to a large portion of the U.S. stock market, reduce the risks that come with owning individual stocks, and make it much easier to stay invested for the long run instead of constantly trying to guess which company will outperform next. This matters for Black wealth in particular. Brookings found that stock investments accounted for only about 4% of Black wealth growth, compared with nearly 30% for white households. That means many Black families are missing out on one of the most powerful long-term wealth-building tools available in America. If your employer offers a 401k, especially one with matching contributions, pay close attention to it. If you're eligible for a Roth IRA, take the time to understand how it works. You don't need to be rich to get started. You need consistency. Small monthly investments made year after year can grow into something much larger over time. That's how quiet, steady investing eventually creates real financial freedom. Asset number 3 is real estate. Real estate remains one of the strongest long-term wealth-building assets available when it's approached with patience and realistic expectations. This isn't about believing you need 10 Airbnb properties by next year. It's about owning real estate that builds equity, generates cash flow, or ideally, both. Property has the potential to create monthly income, appreciate in value over time, build equity with every mortgage payment, and provide some protection against inflation. There are also more affordable ways to get started than many people realize, including creative financing strategies, owner-occupied properties, and smaller first investments. Brookings' research also highlights why this matters for Black families. Between 2019 and 2022, growth in home equity was one of the biggest contributors to rising Black household wealth. That also tells us something important. Homeownership and real estate continue to play a major role in building wealth. But there's an important caution that comes with it. Real estate can be an incredible asset, but it isn't very liquid. You can't easily turn equity into cash overnight when life throws you a surprise. That's why buying property while leaving yourself with no financial cushion can create just as much stress as it solves. If you're just getting started, think about what makes sense in the real world. Maybe it's buying a duplex and living in one unit while renting the other. Maybe it's renting out a spare bedroom, purchasing an affordable starter home, or learning how real estate investing works before trying to build a large portfolio. The goal isn't to look wealthy. The goal is to own property that strengthens your finances instead of stretching them to the breaking point. Real estate can absolutely help build long-term wealth, but only when it improves your life instead of becoming a financial burden. Asset number 4 is business equity. This is one of the most powerful wealth-building tools available because there's a major difference between earning income and owning something that produces income. A paycheck can support your lifestyle, but ownership has the potential to change your family's future. Business equity means owning a business, or even part of one, that can generate profits beyond the hours you personally work. For Black families, this represents a tremendous opportunity. Brookings found that business equity accounted for about 21% of Black household wealth growth between 2019 and 2022. That's a significant share, and it reinforces an important point. Business ownership isn't a side conversation. It's one of the strongest paths toward building lasting wealth. And let's keep this realistic. Owning a business doesn't mean you need to create the next billion-dollar tech company. It could be a cleaning business, a trucking company, a local service business, vending machines, lawn care, a neighborhood car wash, or an online business serving a specific niche. What matters is building something with loyal customers, healthy profit margins, and the ability to generate income consistently. Many successful entrepreneurs also acquire existing cash-flowing businesses using creative financing strategies such as seller financing instead of starting from scratch. But the bigger lesson is this. Once you own the business, you're no longer limited to getting paid only when you're personally on the clock. That's where ownership becomes so much more valuable than simply working harder. Asset number 5 is digital assets. This is still one of the most overlooked asset classes, even though it has become one of the most accessible. Digital assets include websites, YouTube channels, ebooks, online courses, templates, printable products, music royalties, software, and content libraries that continue generating income long after the original work is finished. That's what makes digital assets so powerful. They often require more effort up front than money. They can reach people around the world, and they have the potential to keep earning while you're doing something else entirely. A website can produce advertising and affiliate income for years. A digital product can be sold thousands of times without being recreated. A book can continue generating royalties. A YouTube video can earn revenue months or even years after it's published. Those are all examples of assets that continue working after you've already put in the effort. This is especially meaningful because digital assets lower the barrier to ownership. Not everyone can afford to buy an investment property or purchase an existing business today. But many people already have knowledge, skills, or experience they can package into something valuable. Maybe you can't buy a rental property this year, but you might be able to build a YouTube channel, publish an ebook, create budgeting templates, teach a skill online, or develop a digital product that solves a real problem for other people. That's ownership too. And for many families, it's the first asset that opens the door to building something much bigger over time.